This video we're going to be going over what are, without a doubt, the 5 best loadouts you can use inside Warzone 2 right now. The reason why I'm covering this today is because on the sim.gg website we can now get recoil controlling stats. So if you take a look at some of the muzzles here, it actually shows you how much recoil control benefits you actually get with each of the suppressors or muzzles in general, and then also the same goes for underbarrel attachments as well. So as you can see next to the camera here as well. So using the sim.gg website as we've shown you, along with our TTK spreadsheet. So starting off with our first loadout, we've got the TAQ-56 along with the X12 akimbo pistols, and I'll get onto the pistols in just a moment. But the TAQ-56 is a very popular weapon right now, and the main reason for that is because it's super low recoil. In terms of TTK, it's definitely not the best, but everyone's using this gun because it's well-rounded, a decent weapon, and it's easy to use, and that's obviously why it's such a popular gun. Now when it comes to the build, this is the perfect build for this gun. If you compare all of the attachments against each other on the sim.gg website, this is the best build overall. So you do want the 60 round mag. If you play solos, 40 rounds is definitely decent. You do want to choose high velocity because it's going to give you better bullet velocity than the barrel, and we already knew that from before. But what you do want to do is actually do the attachment tuning more towards recoil steadiness just to get a bit better recoil control. You are sacrificing some bullet velocity, but it's still going to be better than using the barrel in general anyway. So that is the way you want to tune it here. When it comes to the underbarrel grip, the Precision 40 is the best underbarrel grip across any gun in any category essentially in this game right now. So it's basically the one that helps the most with recoil control. So that is why you do want to choose this. Now, of course, you want to tune it as well, but the tuning is not really towards recoil. It's more for aim down sight speed and hip walking speed, or you could choose hip recoil control if you're using an SMG. Then we are using the Zulu 60 suppressor. Now, this suppressor is kind of that sweet spot where you do get a good bit of bullet velocity, but it doesn't con your aim down sight nearly as much as some of the other suppressors. Now, the Harbinger D20 suppressor will give you more bullet velocity than the Zulu, but it does con your aim down sight even further. So it's just going to come down to personal preference on that one. Personally, I like to have a good balance, but if you do want the extra bullet velocity, then take the Harbinger D20. And to be fair, this is going to be the case for quite a few of these builds here. And then when it comes to the attachment tuning, this is what you can do right here. If you want a bit more recoil control, then you can go more towards the idle stability section. But if you do want better bullet velocity, then you can obviously crank that up a bit with the Zulu suppressor as well. But personally, I think just leaving it in the middle is perfect because you don't want to con the recoil or the bullet velocity either way. And then we are using the AIM OP V4 optic, which is the best optic in the game, and you can position that however you feel. On the X12 akimbo pistols, this actually has the fastest TTK when it comes to akimbo pistols in this game. You could choose the full auto ones, you could choose the P890s, but this one actually has the fastest TTK out of the bunch. So if you are trying to use a secondary weapon with no overkill, obviously, then this would be the best way to go. Now, we are using the akimbo attachment, we are using the 33 round mags, you can use 24 if you want a bit better movement speed. We are using the hip fire accuracy laser, and we are using the rapid trigger, and this is the trigger that gives you the fastest possible fire rate and therefore giving you the best kind of TTK values as well. When it comes to the suppressor here, we are using the CN30 suppressor. That's all I have unlocked for this gun because it does require you to level up other weapons to get the steel fire. Now again, in a similar case, the steel fire gives you better bullet velocity, but then it cons your aim down sight a bit more than the CN30. But when it comes to akimbo weapons, aim down sight speed doesn't really matter at all, so the steel fire would be the best way to go had I have it unlocked. The next loadout is just raw TTK, to be honest. That's basically what this is all about, and that's the FENNEC-45 with the Raal LMG. We'll start off with the FENNEC, and the build you want to go for here is this one just here, and that is with the stock cap. Now this is going to give you the strafing speed, and it does make your strafing absolutely insane. Considering there's no movement in this game, if you are able to strafe faster than your opponent, you will be winning more gunfights. So just make sure you take advantage of that. And I pretty much use no stock or the stock cap on every single SMG I use more or less now, because it's the only way to win gunfights. We are using the 7mm laser, which is going to give you the better aim down sight speed. and that's to compensate for the mag and other attachments we are using as well. You can choose the hip shot or any other hip fire accuracy laser. That's if you do hip fire a bit more than you aim down sight, but personally I do like to aim down sight more. Precision 40 once again because it is the best at controlling recoil, so you do want to go for that option because every other underbarrel is not going to be nearly as good. And then obviously when it comes to attachment tuning, this is the tuning right here for that underbarrel grip. Now we are using the 45 round mags, and that's just because you absolutely have to have it on there, especially for the FENNEC. And then when it comes to the compensator, this is the next best attachment at controlling recoil for the FENNEC, and that is the AVR T90 compensator with the attachment tuning you see on screen just now. And this is going to make this gun feel really good, even when it comes to landing those shots at about 20 meters, which you shouldn't really be challenging gunfights at 20 meters with this gun, but if you have to, you can still hit your shots. So definitely one of the best builds for the FENNEC, and at close range this gun absolutely destroys anything else. And then we do have the Raal LMG, of course, which is the best long range TTK gun in the game. So like I said, we are going for that TTK right there. And we are using the AIM OPV4 optic. Again, I've got far and the aim down sight speed tuning here. OLE laser, because we do need that aim down sight speed. Now you could go for the 50 round mags, but I personally like to have the larger mags there, and they kind of both give you the same rough benefit when it comes to aim down sight time, but I personally prefer the larger mags. Now when it comes to the grip, the rear grip definitely helps more than any of the underbarrel grips. The sim.gg website doesn't have any of the testing for those. However, the reason why I say that is because this gives you less cons anyway, so you're probably better off going with the rear grip than the underbarrel grips that are available, because they're going to con your aim down sight speed, which because it's an LMG is not something you're really looking for. When it comes to the muzzle, we have the FTAC Reaper, and this is the one that kind of gives you that bit of a balance when it comes to aim down sight time as well as bullet velocity. Now if you want the best possible bullet velocity, then you will need to unlock the Bruin Agent 90, which is required by leveling up the lab to level 20. But again, I think conning the aim down sight time way too much, especially on an LMG like this, is not ideal. So I do like to go for the bit more balanced approach with the FTAC Reaper anyway, so it wouldn't have made a difference. And then you do want to tune this slightly more towards the recoil side, because we're not using an underbarrel grip here, so just keep that in mind. And then we are trying to balance the aim down sight speed as well. Then we are using the high velocity ammunition, which again is the best choice always to give you the best possible bullet velocity. And again, we are moving this more towards recoil steadiness. The Raal LMG already has a good base bullet velocity anyway because it's an LMG, but overall you still want to keep as much bullet velocity possible, and the best way to do that is to take the ammunition type and then tune it more towards recoil control. And then we are using the Step 40 grip, and then we are using this attachment tuning right here again to give you the recoil control benefits. I just want to quickly show you this one in the firing range, because sometimes people think LMGs are hard to control, but as you can see here, very easy to use. Even at that long range there, all you need to do is pull down a little bit on your analog stick. You can easily land those shots, and as you can see, the hit reg is pretty good as well, pretty much landing those shots instantly. Next up, we've got the RPK with the Lockman sub. Now the Lockman sub is my favourite SMG, so we'll get onto that in just a moment. But when it comes to the RPK, we all know is a super solid choice. It's pretty much been the meta weapon of choice for Warzone 2 since launch, more or less. But when it comes to the build, this is the build you want. So AIM OPV4 optic, attachment tuning is the same as before. We are using the Demo X2 grip, and that is because it does give you the least amount of cons and it helps more than the stock attachments now. So you do want to go for the Demo X2 grip, and you want the attachment tuning that is on screen just now. Again, we are choosing high velocity. None of the barrels for this gun actually help with bullet velocity anyway, so it's actually an easier choice than with some of the other weapons. And then again, you do want to tune more towards recoil steadiness, and then obviously you could choose the vertical slider as well. Now when it comes to the underbarrel grip, we are using the Precision 40 once again because because it is the best under barrel grip to control recoil, and then we have tuned this as well, once again more towards aim down sight speed. We are using the Zulu suppressor, but again in this case the best possible suppressor for bullet velocity is actually the Talon 5 suppressor. This is going to be the best possible bullet velocity, but again if you want that balance, then I recommend the Zulu because it's not going to con your aim down sight, but still gives you a good bonus to bullet velocity overall. And then attachment tuning for that is what you see on screen just now. Now obviously you can center this in the middle as well, both work perfectly fine. So that's going to come down to preference. I do prefer getting a bit more controls. Now going over the Lockman sub build, this is the perfect build for this gun because this is the gun that I use pretty much the most in this game anyway. So if there's any build you could take away from this video, then definitely it's this one. So stockless mod is going to give you the best strafing speed. You absolutely need it, like I said before, when it comes to the Fennec. So it's absolutely one of the best choices to give you that left and right strafe speed, especially when you're on those close range gunfights. You do need the 7mm laser. You can also choose the hip shot if you want as well. Both are solid choices, but I've actually went back to using the aim down sight one. 50 round drum mags is an absolute must if you're playing anything above trios. We are using the lock grip precision 40 once again, and that's because it's the best under barrel grip. And then we are tuning this weapon right here. Now the left slider, in my opinion, is always better to go for hip walking speed, and that's just because the movement in this game is not great. So if you're hip firing and moving, you move a bit quicker. Now when it comes to the bottom slider, it's going to be personal preference. I'm leaving it smack bang in the middle, and that is just because I prefer to have a bit both of aim down sight and hip fire accuracy, especially because I'm not using any hip fire lasers. And this is the best way to do it. But if you do want a bit more aim down sight speed, then obviously you can go more towards that as well. AVR compensator, once again for SMGs, this is the best compensator in the game, and this is going to give you the best possible control. And again, the attachment tuning for that is right here if you do want to tune it. But like I said, the MP5 is a solid choice. But what I do want to quickly show you here is the RPK in the firing range, and as you can see with this build, is very easy to manage the recoil at range. Even you can pretty much hit your shots constantly, not moving that much, and to be fair, you wouldn't need to fire for that long with this gun anyway before your opponent's pretty much dead, because the TTKs are absolutely insane with this weapon. But as you can see here, super easy to use. Now the next loadout has got two weapons that are absolutely amazing in this game, but also I got the builds wrong in the previous video that we went over TTKs with. Now I obviously went off of the fact of what felt good to me in game, and that's still a pretty decent build if you want to use it, but this is the perfect build for this gun, especially with all the stats available as well now. So basically you've got the Vasnev and the KASTOV-762. The KASTOV-762 has got one of the best TTKs for any long range rifle in this game, so it's definitely a solid choice. Aim OP optic once again with the attachment tuning you see on screen just now. 40 round mags is an absolute must, especially for trios and quads. And then we are using high velocity this time, so high velocity, and we are going to tune more towards recoil steadiness because we're not choosing any grips that are going to help with recoil with this gun, so we do need to get a little bit more recoil control if we can. So that is why I've pushed it more towards the left here. We're still keeping good bullet velocity though, so just definitely keep that in mind. It's still going to have really good bullet velocity values. We are choosing the Zulu suppressor once again because it gives you that balance, but again for this gun, if you want the best possible bullet velocity, the ZLR Talon 5 is going to be the best for that. So if you're looking for the best possible bullet velocity, then go for that option. But I like the balance of the Zulu. It gives you good bullet velocity bonuses, and it doesn't con your aim down sight nearly as much. And then we are tuning this as well to give you a bit more recoil control, and again that's because we don't have any grips on this weapon. Then lastly, you do actually want to choose the barrel, and the best barrel for this gun is the K30 406mm. It's going to give you super good recoil control, and what we've done is balance this more towards recoil steadiness and aim down sight speed, and overall this is the perfect build for the KASTOV-762. Moving on over into the Vasnev now, this gun is absolutely solid when it comes to TTKs, and even when you extend it past that first damage drop off, it's actually a very solid choice. But the build that I've been recently using now is this more aggressive build for this gun, and that is just because it is a very aggressive gun, and you can use it as a sniper support. You can also use it as a bit more of a balanced SMG, but personally I just prefer this build. So you do want to use the stockless mod again for that strafe speed, and that is just going to overall be just allowing you to win more gunfights, which is the main focus of this. OLE laser for the aim down sight speed, which is basically as always. You can choose the hip fire accuracy ones if you want. And then we are using the precision 40 as well. Once again, it's because it controls the recoil the best. The attachment tuning is on screen just now if you want to see that. We are using the AVR compensator once again. It's the best at controlling recoil for SMGs. And then again, the attachment tuning is on screen just now for that one as well there. And then we're using the 45 round mags. When it comes to recoil on SMGs, it's not super important. It's not like the main factor. TTK is probably the main important factor because you will be at pretty much point blank range. But it's still something you do want to try and control so you can land those shots if you need to. So like I said, this is probably the best build. Now I do want to quickly show you this Kastov inside the firing range as well, because the build is a bit weird without any underbarrel grips, but trust me, you can definitely control this gun very easily. As you can see here, you can land your shots at range and at close range, of course. It's going to be easy to do both. And like I said, it's just a super good gun to use, especially when it comes out to TTKs. Last but not least, we've got the best sniper class in the game, and I think this is probably the perfect loadout and is the only sniper you should be using, in my opinion, when it comes to Warzone 2.0. So we'll start off with the signal build because, like I said, is the only sniper we've got when it comes to a viable one in this game. And I do want to quickly talk about suppressors here. So I'm currently using the nil sound 90 silencer. Now, this is nowhere near the best. The two best suppressors for this are actually going to be the Bruin counter ops, which is basically going to give you the best possible bullet velocity. But if you actually want one that's the balanced option, then the L40 Cobra is going to be the best balanced option. Now, you do need to level up the Victus to level 14 to use this one. So this is the one I would recommend, is the Bruin L40 Cobra, but currently I'm using the nil sound. The Kilo 50 barrel is definitely the best barrel for this gun. So when it comes to attachment tuning, this is how I would tune it, more towards aim down sight speed. Damage range is not super important, especially if you're trying to challenge past like 100 meters. You've probably passed the farthest damage range anyway. We are using the OLE laser for the best possible aim down sight speed. We are using the inline stock again for the best possible aim down sight speed, and again we're tuning that more towards aim down sight time. And then obviously you can play around with the bottom slider if you want, but I do value aim blocking speed and idle stability both just as much, so I wouldn't really mess around with that one too much. And then we are using high velocity once again to get the best possible bullet velocity for this gun. And we've not tuned this at all because you do want recoil steadiness with this gun because it is semi-automatic. And then the damage range slider you can play around with. Obviously you could put that pretty much all the way up for the most part. It's not really going to change too much, but it's worth doing anyway, I suppose. But definitely don't touch that bottom slider. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. Now we are pairing this with a Chimera, which is the best sniper support gun in the game in my opinion. Now the KASTOV-762 is pretty good, but this has better TTK numbers, so it's obviously going to be the better choice then. So 45 round mags as always, because you do need the largest possible mags with this gun. And then we are using the 7mm laser, which is going to give you the better aim down sight speed. If you do want to remove any attachment here, I would recommend removing the laser and putting on an optic if you really need to. But I think the iron sights are relatively clean with this gun anyway. Then we are using the Phoenix barrel, and that is because it's actually going to give you the best possible recoil control. It doesn't help nearly as much as the underbarrel grip, but we do need this as well as the bullet velocity, and there's no other attachments that help bullet velocity besides the muzzle obviously, so just keep that in mind. When it comes to attachment tuning, you can see that on screen just now here. And again, the bottom slider, I do value aim down sight and damage range when it comes to a sniper support weapon. And then we are using the Zulu suppressor once again. Again, this is my favorite one to use. It's not the best for bullet velocity, but it's definitely the most balanced choice not to con your aim down sight too much. And I think it's super important for a weapon like this because it's going to have to do close range and medium range, and you don't want to lose out to SMGs having such a slow aim down sight time. So the attachment tuning, again, we are focusing more towards ADS time as well here, and you can basically push this more towards bullet velocity if you want to, but again, idle stability is also important. Then we are using the lock grip precision 40 once again, and that is because it's the best underbarrel grip, and again you can see that on screen. So there we have it. Those are the 5 best loadouts when it comes to Warzone 2.0 right now. Obviously we'll have more updates coming with new weapons and we'll keep you up to date. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.